Welcome back. Let's get into the heart of NotebookLM and explore its key features and functionalities. First things first, let's get you all set up with your first NotebookLM notebook. Head over to notebooklm.google.com and sign in using your Google account. Once you're there, you will see this screen, which is NotebookLM's homepage. Here is where you can access all your notebooks. A notebook is like a dedicated space for a specific project or topic. It's where you'll gather all your sources and notes. Think of it like a supercharged digital folder for your project. On this homepage, you will see a button called Create New. And that is what we are going to click to create a new notebook. The first thing NotebookLM is going to ask you when creating a new notebook is to upload your sources. Remember that NotebookLM supports different file types, including PDFs, Google Docs, websites, and even YouTube videos. I'm going to upload a PDF about the history of AI. So I'm going to choose a file and select the history of AI. Once you have your first notebook set up, let's take a tour of the interface. On the left side, we have the Sources panel. Here's where all your sources live. This is where you add the documents, articles, or websites you want NotebookLM to learn from. I added one already, but if I wanted to add more, I can go here to add a new source, and I will see the screen that will allow me to select new sources. In the middle of the screen, what you are seeing now is what is called Notebook Guide. This is like your command center for interacting with your notebook and its sources. We'll explore this in more detail shortly. At the bottom, you'll find the chat bar. This is where the magic happens. You can ask NotebookLM questions, request summaries, or even ask it to create different outputs based on your sources. To interact with the chat, you can do it by start typing here. Or if you want to view the chat, you can click on View Chat and it will display the chat. It's empty because I haven't asked any questions to the chat yet. If I close chat, what I will see are my saved notes. This is the Notes panel. Think of this as your digital notepad. You can jot down your thoughts, ideas, and insights here, or you can have NotebookLM generate notes based on your sources. Let's see all of this in more detail with the example of the history of AI. But before we continue, I wanted to say that in sources, you can see that at the bottom it says source limit, and that's because you can upload up to 50 sources per notebook. Also, each source can be up to 500,000 words, so it's best to choose your sources strategically and prioritize the most relevant ones. Also, be aware that certain types of content like paywalled articles or files that require specific software to open may not be fully supported. Now, let's take a closer look at that Notebook Guide button. You will find it here on the bottom right. What this does is to give you a quick overview of the main points and helps you understand the source's key takeaways. In this case, I only have one source, so it's showing me the summary of my one source. If I had more sources, it would show the summary of all the sources. The summary says that the text provides a comprehensive history of artificial intelligence, tracing its origins from ancient philosophical concepts to its current prominence. We can also see in the notebook guide that it suggests questions. Questions like, what key milestones shaped the evolution of AI across different eras? How have societal expectations and funding influenced AI's progress? And what ethical considerations should guide the future development of AI? These are tailored to the specific content you've uploaded, prompting you to think more deeply about the material. If I click on one of the suggested questions, what it will do is to open the chat. And NotebookLM will start answering my question. And there I have the answer. If I go back to Notebook Guide, I can see that it can really help you organize and synthesize information. You can use pre-formatted guides to create things like FAQs, study guides, table of content, timeline, and briefing doc. Because we are analyzing the history of AI, I'm going to create a timeline. And what it does now is to save this timeline as a note. NotebookLM has generated a new note with the timeline of main AI events. I'm gonna change the title of my note. Gonna call it timeline. I'm gonna close it. And we can see here that notes are a great way of capturing and interacting with information in your sources. You can have generated notes like this one, where NotebookLM create the notes for you, or you can have written notes. If I go to add note, then you can see at the top that what I created is a written note. These are notes you create manually by typing them in or copying and pasting text. Think of them as your personal annotations and reflection on the material. You have full control over the content and formatting of written notes. Both generated and written notes show up in your notes panel, which is this, giving you a comprehensive overview of your project. I'm gonna go back to the chat because the chat functionality is at the heart of NotebookLM's interactive experience. You can ask questions about your sources, request summaries, or even ask NotebookLM to perform specific tasks, like creating an outline or rewriting a passage in a different style. To interact with the chat, I could use some of these suggested questions down here, or I could type one of my own questions. I would like to know, when was AI born? And here's my answer, which says, while pinpointing an exact birth date for AI is difficult, the sources suggest a few key moments that mark its emergence. There are 3 different key moments. And what's really interesting here is in each of these key moments, there is a link to the source where I can see specifically where in the source it mentions this point. So I click on number 1. We can see here like a preview, but I can click on number 1 and it opens my source and it highlights where in my source is bringing this answer from. If I go to the next point, the number 2, it's taking me to the other part of my document where I can see where this answer comes from. That's amazing. Also, now that I have the source opened, this is the complete file that I uploaded, I'm going to highlight this paragraph about the AI winter. And now at the bottom, NotebookLM gives me different options. It can suggest related ideas, summarize to note, add to note, or help me understand. And these 4 actions are not based on the whole paper, are just based on the paragraph that I selected. So if I click on suggest related ideas, it's gonna suggest ideas related to just this paragraph. And here I have the answer with the ideas in relation to this passage. We had the source open, but if we had it closed, what you can do is to go to the panel on the left, click on your source, then you highlight one of the paragraphs, and then you will see the 4 actions that I mentioned. Suggest related ideas, summarize to note, add to note, and help me understand. In addition to these actions, when I click on a source, on a specific source, at the top I will see the summary of it, and then the key topics. These are the key topics that my paper talks about, and if I click on any of them, it will allow me to learn more about that specific topic. So as you can see, the chat opened, and the question was discuss AI impact. And now the chat is giving me more information about AI's impact. With this, what I can do is to save it to note. And now it has created a new note with the impact of AI. I'm gonna change the name. Let's wrap up this section with a quick recap. Remember, the power of NotebookLM lies in its ability to organize your project in a structured way, summarize and synthesize information from multiple sources, answer your questions with grounded and reliable responses, and facilitate deeper understanding through interactive prompts and suggestions. And don't forget, the most exciting feature of all is the ability to generate engaging audio overviews that bring your research to life.